There is nothing worse than untapped potentials. If you know that you're made for more, this is the place. I know that every successful person I've ever met has one thing in common. They do not let themselves fall victim to their circumstances. They figure out a way to rise above it. So join me on this journey where I help you to be better, do better, and have better in life and in business. If you're feeling stuck and you're needing some practical tools, some hope to get you to that better life, this is definitely the place for you. Hey everybody, welcome to the Unstuck Podcast. And today I get a chance to talk to Amy Linsmeyer. You guys, she and I completely hit it off. She has very similar passions. And the fact that she is a life coach and a personal growth mentor is something that I completely resonated with because I'm all about growth, right? Like, how can I make myself be better, do better, and have better? How can I get to a place that's even better than where I am now? And Amy, gosh, thank you so much for joining us today. I cannot wait for everybody to get a chance to get to know you and learn from you. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Lachelle. I've been looking forward to this conversation since we last spoke. So thank you for this space.
Me too. Okay, girlfriend, I want you to tell us a little bit more about what it is that you do. How do you serve people? Where are your passions being expressed right now? I just want to hear all about how you're serving in the world and what you're most proud of these days.
All right. Well, like you said, I'm a life coach and personal growth mentor. I'm a very down-to-earth, genuine woman. And so really how I help people is what I did in my own life. So I help women and people in general let go and stop settling for the scraps of their past and really form beliefs and the practices that will help them experience transformation in their life so that they can empower themselves and actually create a life that they love.
Oh my gosh.
Instead of one that they've probably settled for, because I definitely was guilty.
Oh my gosh. I think, yeah, that's so true. And I think that one of the things, I wasn't 100% sold on the name Unstuck right away. But then I realized that people who feel stuck are in a place where they don't want to be, because not everybody even recognizes that they're settling, right? So the people who are listening here are like, I don't want to settle anymore. I'm ready for better. And thanks for being vulnerable enough to say like, oh my gosh, like this is a process that you personally had to go through. And I would love to know more about that. If you're willing to be vulnerable with us, tell us a little bit about that journey and how you became the person that you are today.
Well, that starts in years and years ago. But honestly, I've taken really intentional action towards my own personal growth since about 2018. So it's not been very long. Yeah. I had my first relationship where I was not abused when I was 31. I'm 39 now. And I was in that relationship for about 5 years. It was a healthy relationship because I was not abused. But I began to understand that it wasn't the relationship that I wanted to have for the rest of my life. I wasn't truly myself. I didn't feel safe to be myself. If any of your listeners have ever experienced a traumatic past, they might have some things in that past that they don't feel comfortable disclosing to the people in their life that are closest to them for fear of rejection.
Yes.
And I found myself 5 years into that relationship with a man who did love me and loved my children. And we were talking about, starting a family a little longer than I had. It took a little longer than I was hoping for. And so I started to ask myself and God really, like, is this the relationship that I'm supposed to be in? Because I was conflicted inside. I knew I didn't feel comfortable being Amy, and I only was able to expose the parts of me that I thought he would like. And it felt awful. And I wasn't getting that proposal like year after year. And I was starting to resent him. And in the process of resenting him, I was self-sabotaging myself. I was bringing up all those things that had nothing to do with our relationship, but all the things that the men in my life had said to me. And I realized that I had no self-worth. I realized that I was settling, that I didn't love myself enough to take accountability for the type of relationship that I really truly did deserve, because I didn't believe at that time that I did.
Right.
And that was literally like 4 years ago. So it's not been long.
Yeah. That's a life-changing experience though. I mean, because I can relate to that even in relationships with, you know, family members that have been distanced themselves from us, or from friends that I had conflict with. And I found myself literally just recognizing that it was my self-worth or lack thereof that was holding that relationship closer than it needed to be. And I was holding myself hostage in that because I didn't believe that I was worth better.
That's such a beautiful way of describing what I experienced. It's so similar, and I've never heard anybody say it in that way before, but that's exactly what it was. I was holding myself hostage.
Yeah.
And so, so about 4 years ago, I woke up the day after I threw him a huge birthday party. Mm-hmm. And the first thought I had when I woke up is, I need to end this relationship. Mm-hmm. And it was the hardest decision that I think I have ever made in my life. It makes me emotional just thinking about it, because it affected a lot of people. It affected my kids. It affected him. And I was taking the stability that I worked so hard to gain.
Right.
And I was throwing it out the window and betting on myself. And it was the most terrifying and liberating thing that I have ever done.
Right? Because you realize again that like you've been holding yourself hostage, but the door has been open the whole time.
Yeah.
Why didn't you walk through the door? And that's what I had to tell myself recently. And it's like, it was like this moment, this aha moment where all of a sudden I realized that I have enough worth to decide who's in my circle, and that I'm already whole on my own, and that the door is already open, and I get to choose who comes and goes through that door. But oh my goodness. And so it's like, once that aha moment comes, all of a sudden you're right. It's like stressful, but it's like the most freeing, liberating, peaceful experience right?
Peaceful at times. I'm going to be honest, for my journey. I guess it depends on every single person, because our stories are all so different. And so some of the things that have created the mindsets that we have and our beliefs are different. Yes. So for me, it was at times incredibly peaceful, as I had trauma healing to work through. Yes. I realized when I made that one decision, that one choice, that very hard choice, it opened up a whole can of worms.
Oh, I bet it did.
At times, healing from trauma was traumatic in itself. Yeah. And that journey lasted about a year. Uh-huh. So of really transforming my own life. And that's what I help people do today. Yeah. So I think it's all for a purpose.
Yeah. I think, I love that you said peaceful at times, because I think that that's such a beautiful way to say this. So I think for me, that peace came in just that moment and realizing that I don't need someone else's approval of me to be me. And that little bit of peace was really freeing to me. But you're right. Like, the new things come up and they trigger things, and you have to continue to deal with things. Like, this is not a one and done, guys, but you get that moment of all of a sudden you have this realization that you're worthy of better. And
and then cling to it in those moments that you forget.
Oh my God. And the thing is, like, so I had an experience recently, and I literally wrote down in my journal at night before I went to bed, which I'm not very good about writing in my journal. I gotta be honest with you, I'm working on it. But I wrote down exactly how I felt. And it was so powerful that I read it every night since, to remind myself of how good that felt. So whenever I get sucked back into all of the things. So you guys, like, this is definitely not something that is something that is going to, I don't know, it's hard to explain. It changes you, but it's still, we're human, right?
It's a forever thing. Self-worth and believing in yourself and not settling is a lifetime thing. Yeah. We can get really good at it, but something is always going to pop up. So we really have to build those skills to work through it quick so that we don't move backwards.
And what did you learn for yourself in your trauma healing? And take me through that process of how you were able to even start that.
Well, that's how I started it, was just making a choice. So I kind of forced myself into it.
Yes.
And what I learned throughout this process is exactly like what you just said, is I have always been enough. I am loved. I am love. I exude love and I receive love. And how I feel about myself attracts those types of people into my life.
Yes.
And it starts and ends right here.
Right.
That's really, truly the biggest thing that I learned, is I have way more control than I ever believed I did.
Yeah, absolutely. And people tell you, right? They tell you, well, Lachelle, you can't control what other people do, but you can control the way that you react to that. And that sounds intellectually like, duh, right? But sometimes it's really, really hard to do. It's really, really hard to do, because we self-sabotage ourselves, and we keep ourselves at that hostage, and we keep ourselves stuck. And a lot of that comes down to the limiting beliefs that have been building up inside of our brains for years and years and years. From the moment that we have been probably in our mom's womb, we have been having things go into our subconscious that are on autopilot and introducing themselves into our self-talk every single day. Right?
Exactly. Yes. I've spent the last month talking just about self-talk, because it is powerful, and our subconscious is constantly bringing stuff to surface, but we do it ourselves, and that makes it conscious. And then I feel like that has even more power. And so you had asked like what that process looked like for me. And that's part of it. It was really recognizing my self-sabotage cycle, because I had one and I did not recognize it for years. And so I had to like really pay attention to my process and get really self-aware and intentional about understanding when I was making that decision that took me in the direction I didn't want to be, why I was doing it, which meant recognizing the thoughts that I was having when I was feeling certain emotions, and then paying attention to the next steps after, so that I could, when I was at a place where I was well and not like on an emotional roller coaster, come up with a new plan. Like when this happens, I'm going to do this different. And that is not easy. And so self-care has been my partner.
So I want to reiterate that, because I want to make sure we understand. So basically you started to have an awareness of the things that were triggering you. And then you started to have the awareness of your normal reaction to that trigger. Right. And then once you had that awareness of that trigger, and you notice the normal way that you react, and you can start to rewrite the plan of how you're going to react when that trigger happens, is the way that you were able to do that. Does that sound accurate?
Yes. And that's the control that I'm talking about.
Okay.
That's the control that we have that I didn't know that we have. Sometimes we just let life happen. And sometimes we say, that's just the way I am. I would tend to flip out. And I have anxiety and ADD, and I'm not on anything. I just maintain it and manage it on my own. And so flying into a fit of rage and acting irrational when I was hurt is something I had accepted as that's just the way I am.
Right, right.
It's not the way I am. That's in conflict with the way I am. That's just how I reacted to my feelings and the thoughts I had about them.
Right. And so that's what you meant about having the awareness of your self-sabotaging behaviors, right?
Right.
And I think that that's really, really powerful, because one of the things that's been interesting is that my husband and I have been together since I was 17. So he's, like been my partner longer than he hasn't. But we grew up in very different households. And I remember when we first got married, he'd be like, that is not appropriate way to respond to that. Because that's literally how I grew up. Like that was appropriate in my household. And it was just, it's interesting because we don't even know what ways we're self-sabotaging ourselves. And sometimes it's just, that's just the way it is. Like our belief system, our paradigms just doesn't know any different. And so the fact that you get to choose the way that you react, you get to choose how you do things is powerful. It's giving your power back, right?
Right. Exactly. And it's something that I didn't know that I had. And if somebody would have told me that I had that type of control and I could change if I wanted to, it just might be hard. I would probably have rolled my eyes and been offended. It's not until you make the choice to like deal with it that you can really accept, and you start building confidence as you start to notice a difference in you.
Yeah.
And that's what it takes.
And I bet you don't even recognize yourself now versus the woman who continually put yourself into abusive relationships. I bet you don't even recognize yourself.
No, a completely different person. I have such love for her though. I look at it as, I look at myself as more than one person, because we are like, we're the same, but there's different versions. And so I look at her like, wow, weren't you strong to be able to hang on during all of that? And I just have great adoration. And also, I just want to like give her a big old hug. Like, I wish I would have known sooner, but I didn't. And I'm okay with that.
You're okay with that. And you take that. And this is one of the things I've noticed with people that do well in life, is that they can take a situation, they can learn to grow from it. They can take lessons from it. Right. And they use it as a catalyst or a tool to make themselves better, or make other people's lives around them better. And that's what you're doing today.
Yes. And I love it. And it's the biggest gift I could have ever given myself, is to take the pain and the process of my own journey, like my own personal growth, and use it to help other people rise as well. It's the best.
And so tell me a little bit, because there might be somebody listening to this, and I haven't had a conversation yet on the show with somebody that has been able to be vulnerable enough to share this. But tell me a little bit about what was going on in your mind when you were in all of those relationships, and what made you continue to kind of put yourself in that situation. Kind of give me an idea of who she was at the time.
Yeah. So I'll give you a real quick backstory. So I was molested from the age of 4 till the age of 11. So I had a very twisted idea from the very beginning. So I never had like that self-worth there. It was gone. And I got pregnant when I was 18, and he left me. And so I had that rejection. And so I started to beat myself up in my brain. Started to like really blame myself. And while I was in these abusive relationships, that's really truly what I felt I deserved. And I felt like that was normal. Because that's all I had ever known.
That's all you knew.
And as I grew older, the hope that I had that it would get better and that I could do better got smaller and smaller and smaller. And I started to accept more and more and more. And it's like everything got darker and darker and darker. And I stopped dreaming or hoping for myself. And I really just settled into, I'm going to make the best out of really crappy situations. And I really, truly felt like I wasn't worth anything. I had one man in my life that I will never forget what he told me. He was, I don't want to say too much, but I was pregnant with my 4th child. And he told me while I was pregnant, it was his child, who would want to be with somebody with 4 kids? That's what he told me. And it stuck with me, and it stung me so hard that every time, like when I got out of that relationship and I thought about new ones, that's what I heard. And it was one of the worst things that somebody has ever said to me, because I let it mean something more than I let it be true. And forgiving myself for that was part of like that whole growth journey, because that was very hard. It was very hard for me to forgive myself for not being ready to stand up on my own 2 feet and walk out the door a lot sooner. And other, not with the man I left, but in general. What I mean is myself stepping into who I am and taking control.
I think, and I mean, Amy, I've told you this before. One of the reasons that I couldn't wait to talk to you and have our audience get a chance to know you better is that I am just so amazed by your resilience. The fact that you do all the things that you do, and the fact that you're modeling amazing things for your kids is like, girlfriend, you are up on a pedestal in my mind, right?
Thank you.
And so I just think that remembering that and knowing that you're making such a difference, and that you got through all the things that you did and you're still showing up and making such an impact on other people it makes me want to be around you, because I'm in awe of all the things that you're doing and the things that you've been able to overcome. You guys, I cannot wait to pick Amy's brain about the ways that she went from somebody who had gone through all of those things in her life and the way that she felt like she didn't have the worth and that she didn't deserve any better than what she had, to where she is now, because holy Hannah, has she like transformed her life. I can't wait to just dive into the ways that she did that and the practical tools that she can give you. So if you're feeling stuck right now and you can resonate with her story, you aren't going to want to miss this. But we are going to quickly tell you a little bit about what I am most passionate about these days, this amazing course that I put together so that I could help other mamas, busy mamas, make an impact in the world without sacrificing the things that mean the most to you. So hold tight, and we'll be back in just a moment with Amy's rest of her story. Hey, LaChelleWieme here, and I gotta ask you, are you feeling like you're always on your freaking phone and you're trying to run your business, your family's complaining about you always being on your phone, you feel like you're winging it constantly, and all you want to do is have a strategy that lets you be 100% authentic, and you are literally attracting the right people to you? Oh my goodness, that was me too, and I had to figure out a system that would make that work, and I totally nailed it. I have a program all designed to help you do that too, including a chance to spend the entire day with me so that I can help you write copy that attracts people, and you will literally be done for an entire year. If that sounds like it's something that you need, we totally need to talk. Go ahead and click this link and let's get started. Okay, you guys, I could not wait to continue this conversation. So Amy, girlfriend, tell me how you were able to go from that woman who was pregnant with her fourth child, who was told that she was nothing, who had gone through all the things that you had gone through, to where you are today. I take us through the journey and give us some hope and some practical tools to help people who are maybe sitting where you were at one point.
Such a loaded question.
I know, right?
There's so many things, and it's continual. It's
right.
Continual, so I'm still in the process. But here are some things that helped me in the most significant way.
Okay.
And the very first thing is making that choice. That's the biggest and best thing that you can ever do, is to, even if you don't believe it for yourself yet, that you make that choice regardless, and know that you will figure it out. So just making the choice was number one, the 100%. Hands down best thing.
Yep.
And I picked up a book. Rather, it was handed to me. It was Jen Sincero's book, You Are a Badass.
Yes, that's such a good book.
I didn't just read it though. And I feel like a lot of people do just read books. Yeah. I took every suggestion that she had in that book, and I did it. Anybody that she said to, like any person that she mentioned that had impacted her life, I went and I found them. Wow. And I just was so intentional. I really wanted change. Yeah. And so I didn't read that book. I absorbed it, and I did all the things, and I started to make change. And once I noticed one change, I started to build confidence, and it helped me to like look at my life from a bird's eye view to kind of understand the next change that I might want to make that's going to have the biggest and best impact on you. Yes. So I would suggest that you don't try to change everything at once, that you're open to anything. Yep. And that when you do notice growth, that you be proud of yourself, and that you talk about it, and that you celebrate yourself, because it will make all the difference. Oh my gosh. So what you said was so in tune or in alignment with what I've observed in my own life and other people's lives, that number one, you had to have the desire for better. You had to have a desire for better, and then you made the choice to figure it out. Right. And that's the secret sauce. And then the third thing I always tell people that I've noticed is that you get into action, and you described that so beautifully, because you have to decide, even if you don't know what you're doing, even if you don't have anybody supporting you, even if you have no self-worth or no belief,
making the decision that you'll figure it out is huge. And then you have to get into action. And Amy said that action is the way that you build your confidence. And so one of the things that I've noticed, Amy, is that people sabotage themselves by having a lack of belief that they personally can achieve whatever it is that they're trying to do. And what you did was you gave us that formula, right? The way that you build confidence, the way you build belief is by doing small actions, recognizing that you did it, celebrating that you did it, and that's going to build confidence. And the confidence
Absolutely.
is going to build the belief. And once you have belief in yourself, girlfriend, there is no stopping you.
Nothing. There's the only thing that will stop you is yourself, and you have control over that.
Yes.
So the next thing I would say that helped me the most in this process is there is support. You can find support. You have to let go of a lot of relationships to make room for the relationships that you need.
Yes.
And we come to a point in our journey, like we can be super proud of ourselves and excited, but we get lonely.
Yeah.
And I always had this thing in my heart where I felt envy towards friendships other people had.
Yeah.
And I wanted to have those friendships. And after I got over the crap I was believing about I don't deserve those types of friendships, I sought them out. And anybody has the ability. We live in a world where you can find those people. Like, you don't have excuses. You have to.
You and I connected, right?
Right. So I found support. I found people that were a couple steps ahead of me.
Yep.
And I put myself into their room. So like Facebook groups, things like that. In my own community, I like sought people out and invited them to have coffee. Like, how scary is that?
Yes.
That's terrifying. But if you truly want to build the life that you are nervous to live, that's the type of thing that you need to do. You have to set yourself up for success.
And I think that, when you lack self-worth, I think that those conversations are really intimidating, right? That you're like, oh my gosh, like, what if I get there and I embarrass myself, or I don't know what to say, or what is this person going to think of me? And I think too, one of the things that I've caught myself in is the scarcity mindset. So you look at your circle, right? And you're like, I don't really know if these people are right for my circle for where I want to go. But you're so afraid of the rejection of letting them out of your circle that you're not making room for the people who need to be in your circle.
Right. So I learned to not necessarily just to like put distance between people, and I can stop nurturing relationships for people that I still love.
Yes. Yes.
I can still love people and care about them without actively engaging in their life. And that is okay. And we don't have to be feeling guilty about doing that.
Right. I love that. And when you find that your own self-worth starts to grow, you feel more comfortable with those boundaries. You feel comfortable with that distance. It doesn't mean that you don't love them, right? But you're making room for the people that you really need to be in your life. And I think that's amazing. And what would you say to somebody who's a little bit scared? They're like, oh, I'm just afraid. I'm afraid of the rejection of reaching out to this woman that I see, in social media in my community. And I'd really love to have coffee with her, but I'm too scared.
I would say, get over it.
I love it. I love it.
I'm very blunt, but that is what I say. I would say, get over it, because if you approach that person and the response you get is the worst scenario you have built up in your head, if that's what happens, you needed to know. You needed to know that that wasn't the person that you were going to align your energy with.
Yes.
No matter what, it's a win.
100%. So you basically let them qualify themselves to be in your circle. Right? Yes. And when you start to think about it like that. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So what else? What other things would you suggest?
As far as building community?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. As far as just like continuing to grow from where you were to where you are now.
So once you've built your community and things like that, and you start to build a support system for yourself, if you don't have, it's really important that there's so many things, but my personal values are probably like the next thing that I really got intentional about, and like my guiding principles and things like that. And just really making sure that I am being and reflecting who I want to be. And in order to do that, you have to keep it visible and you have to be self-aware. And that means that you have to build like the practices. So that's why I say, why I help people build the practices and beliefs that it requires to like change.
To show up as that person. Yeah.
Right. Is because you're going to fail. Like we're all going to fail. I fail all the time, but I get right back on. But if we don't know like what to do to keep us going, then our chances of settling again and falling into something is going to increase. So figure out what you need, figure out what you want. Yep. And then do it.
And how do you, sorry, you can continue and I'll ask the question in a second.
So for me, to set myself up for success and to not like backslide, I had to do things like look at how I was living my day.
Okay.
So even though I hated having routines because I never had them, and so I just decided that they were dumb, I had to. I did. I started really small. And it has evolved into something that I crave. I crave my morning routine.
Me too.
I have a 2-hour morning routine. It's the best part of my day.
Yep.
So routine, self-care practices, and having fun are like fundamental to my day.
I love
those are the things that help me continue.
So tell me about the self-care practices that you've instituted into your day.
So every morning I journal. It's not it's huge. Sometimes it's just gratitude. Gratitude practice is by far the best thing you can do for yourself to change your mindset. It's the easiest thing. You might think it's hard, but you have a choice and you can find things.
Yes.
So I start my day every morning for like 3 years with gratitude. And sometimes I journal, and journaling is still intimidating to me. I'm kind of in the same place as you. So for journaling for me is just a brain dump. It's whatever's up here, like whatever things I'm thinking, I just write it out.
Yep.
And just like, it's like how to process. It's, I do it in the morning, sometimes at night. It's just letting everything in here out so that my anxiety is manageable.
Yeah.
It helps.
Yep.
And I go for a walk before work. Not a quick walk, 20 minute walk. And I listen to like a 20 minute podcast. And it's just a beautiful way to start my day. And then I move on and I do the things that I need to do until I'm done with work. And then I get right back outside and I go for another walk. If I can't go for a walk, it's yoga. I need to have something to break up because I work full time still too, as I'm building my business.
Yeah,
so I need something. And your listeners are moms, right?
Yeah.
For the most part.
I
need something to like, I need something in between work and all that does to my brain and my emotions before I slip on my mom hat, which never really comes off. But so a quick walk or yoga has been my reset for that.
Yeah. What a great transition though. And you're modeling that for your kids, which is important, right?
You would think they would get on board, but they're real slow.
I know, same. But I mean, I think that we influence them, whether they realize it or whether we realize it or not. I think that someday they're going to see like, oh, I understand why mom did that. And that was really powerful, right?
I'm starting to get questions. Some of my kids are older. So I have a 20 and an 18-year-old sons. They're the oldest. Yeah. And recently, my 18-year-old son came to me because he noticed he was staying up way later than what he wanted to. And he couldn't, he was like on TikTok. And he actually asked me like what he should do to help him to go to sleep. Awesome. And that was a huge win for me, for my son to come to me, and that he opened up that kind of conversation. So 100%. Right. They are paying attention.
They are paying attention. And that means with the bad stuff too, guys. So our kids are watching us, our bad habits and our good habits. And so being intentional about the choices that we make are going to help them be intentional about the choices they make. And recognizing that as moms, since you brought that up, our little kids can literally be developing their limiting beliefs inside their subconscious by the time they're 7 years old, whether they realize it or not, or whether we realize it or not. So we have this amazing ability to shape these human beings. And I literally mess up by the second, probably. So know that we didn't ruin them, but we have the ability to do really good things with them. And one of the things that I wanted to ask you, because you brought it up, is it really that resiliency and that persistence and that grit that's necessary to keep going. Because like you said, there's going to be times when it gets hard, or you slip back in your belief in yourself, or somebody maybe comes at you and attacks where you're going, or there's a million obstacles that you could run up against. So what things do you have people do to try to keep themselves moving forward and being persistent in their growth journey?
Stuff like that definitely is going to come up, and how we react to it is really, really important. So I'm going to say again, self-care and knowing yourself and knowing what you need to do to not self-sabotage. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say that is probably fundamental to anybody. Yeah. If you want to keep going, you have to understand yourself and come up with a plan when it comes up, because it will come up. Yeah. And pen to paper is how I have done that. Okay. Keeping tabs. It's a weird thing, and my clients think it's weird too when I ask them to like spy on themselves. That's basically what you have to do, is look at yourself and your patterns and your behaviors from someone else's vantage. Ooh. And just take notes and truly learn where that fork in the road is, and set yourself up in a way that it's more lucrative for you to shift in the way that is positive. Like that will help you and benefit you.
I love that. So literally thinking about yourself as a fork in a road, and you have this choice or this choice. Which fork are you going to choose? What choice are you going to make yourself become the person that you're wanting to be? I love that.
No matter what, there's a cost and a benefit to every decision that we make. Yes. So we have to be aware of what it is and if it's worth it.
Yes. Okay, Amy, I could literally talk to you all day long. So I have to have some self-control here. And I want to make sure that I give you a chance, though, to say anything else that we haven't had a chance to talk about. Is there anything else that you want to say to encourage our audience, to give them hope, practical tools, anything to get them unstuck?
Really, it's just believe in yourself, even when you don't believe in yourself. Mm-hmm. That sounds odd, but in those moments where if you feel like you're stuck, then you know that there's more. Yes. You know that you were made for more, or you wouldn't feel stuck. And so let that guide you. Yes. And know and believe that there are people who want to support you, and that you can literally create the type of life that you want to have. There's no true limitation between what your heart actually desires and where you end up. It's just the journey of getting there, and you can make it hard. Yes. Or you can make it pleasurable.
Absolutely. You have that choice. Exactly. And I think that remembering, you guys, that it just takes one small step in the right direction. And it doesn't have to be grand, but that one small step in the right direction gives you that confidence, that courage, the thing that you need to do, and you can have better. I love that, Amy. That's so inspirational. We are going to make sure that everybody has anything they need to have access to you, to follow your journey, to work with you, to learn from you, all the things in the show notes. So we will absolutely make sure that you guys have an ability to connect with Amy and all the cool stuff that she's doing. Before I hop off the call, though, I always ask my audience, or my guest, to give my audience one coaching question for them to ponder between now and the next time we're together, for them to really think about how they can get themselves from where they are to where they want to go.
This question is, what do you want? Mm-hmm. I'm not going to ask you how you're going to get there. I just want you to really, truly ask yourself what you want, not what you think you should want or what society tells you that you want. I want you to think about what you want, like that want that makes your heart melt.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that. And Amy just said this so perfectly, you guys. And just remember that you don't have to have all the how. You just kind of have to think, what is one thing I could do today to get me there? Oh my gosh, I love it, you guys. Thank you so much, Amy, for everything. I hope you all have an amazing, amazing day. Thank you so much for listening to the Unstuck Podcast. I'm so grateful to be on this journey with you. And don't forget to check out the show notes if you want to get into my private club, the Better Club, to be able to learn better ways to be better, do better, and have better. So until next time, keep showing up. Let's get unstuck together. Have a great day.